Councillor Zamprogno.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam.
Firstly, I'd like to shout out to Pastor Dan Canaan over there. Dan, I love you like a brother. I grew up with Dan. We grew up at the same church in Windsor. In fact, I can say that I'm the only councillor around this table who has been on the staff of one of our churches in the Hawkesbury. I was on the part-time staff of the Hawkesbury Church between 1996 and 2000, and I attended that church for 19 years, starting in 1988. In fact, I was on the staff, the junior staff, the part-time staff of that church when the pedophile pastor Frank Houston was parked with us in retirement in 2000, and when the leadership of that church failed to disclose that to me or the congregation.
Councillor, I do warn you under the Code of Meeting Practice, we do have to refrain from
That's okay. My knowledge of defamation law informs me that it's impossible to defame the dead. But 23 years later, I'm still giving media comment on that particular issue. I'm the only councillor here who worked for 20 years in Christian private education at 3 different Christian private schools in the Blue Mountains and at Penrith. I was somebody who was prepared to send my own son to a local Anglican school, even when the leadership of that school signed a statement declaring that they opposed same-sex marriage, and more recently that they wished to continue to reserve the right to discriminate against gay students and staff, a position that I regarded as reprehensible, along with the 63.9% of people who voted yes at the 2017 plebiscite in the seat of Macquarie. And I'm certainly the only councillor present, here or in the previous term, who took up the invitation by the Hawkesbury Ministers Fraternal, the organisation that used to come here and give the prayer at council meetings, to attend a dinner that they held in July 2019. Let me tell you the story. They had invited all of our federal and state members of parliament, the mayor, and all of the councillors. They got enough RSVPs back to prepare a lavish spread up at Kurrajong, and I was the only person that turned up.
Thank you, Madam.
The only elected representative that turned up. I felt
Thank you, Madam.
An enormous vicarious embarrassment for the Hawkesbury Ministers Fraternal. And when I broke bread with them and commiserated with them about that embarrassment, we reflected about what that said about the impact or the relevance of religion to the people of the Hawkesbury.
Thank you, Madam.
So I'd like to think that I've got some understanding and indeed respect for the Hawkesbury faith community.
Thank you, Madam.
Nevertheless, I was one of those people who voted to remove the opening of council meetings with prayer in 2016. Shortly after the election in 2016, around the table, there was a prevailing and clearly majority view amongst my colleagues.
Thank you, Madam.
Like Pierre Solomon Laplace famously said, that we had no need of that hypothesis. And in my 6 years on council, not a single soul has ever remonstrated with me or expressed umbrage about that, nor have they petitioned me for its reversal. And before my colleagues weigh in, those of you who were around that table with me in 2016 and who possess some kind of religious sensibility, none of you have done anything over the last 6 years to fix that either. The Hawkesbury Social Atlas tells me that a significantly higher percentage of Hawkesburyans profess no religious affiliation, even than those in Greater Sydney.
Thank you, Madam.
In 2021, 34% of Hawkesbury City's population, compared to only 30.5% in Greater Sydney. And the number of our own residents with no religious belief grew from 7,416 in 2001 to 22,857 in 2021. And when I was talking to Dan earlier, he was prepared to admit that the Ministers Fraternal may exist on paper, but it doesn't meet.
Thank you, Madam.
You might recall, going back to 2016, is that we had difficulty getting anybody to come up and offer a homily or a prayer at our council meeting. I am not prepared to devote the resources of council staff to this issue when clearly we have heard from our community that we have far higher and more pressing priorities. I will quote to you from the business paper: the process described above, to bring this back, would require a dedicated staff time across various areas of council, including governance, corporate communications and administrative support, and this will delay various tasks presently underway. I am not prepared to do that when we have heard clearly from our community that there are other and more higher priorities. And in fact, I'm prepared to call this out as a stunt by a impending state government change.